Good morning and welcome to the Brick by Brick podcast with Ronald Pauleus, where we talk about mindset, consistency, personal growth. All principles that if you would use, you could build a life worth living brick by brick. Today I want to talk about George Washington a little bit. It's President Day, and I thought it'd be nice to dive into a life of a man who has displayed great leadership, discipline, and integrity, and who has helped shape an entire nation. You see, one doesn't wake up one day and become president. In the past, our presidents, that leadership capacity, that leadership role, I mean, the head of a nation, the leader of a whole nation, takes discipline, takes character, consistency, vision. You have to get millions, hundreds of thousands of people to believe in where you are leading or wanting to lead America. And this man, George Washington, displayed great leadership. I want to first point out that he led by example. He didn't have that, hey, you guys go over there and do this and fulfill my vision leadership. No, he led by action. Before he became president, he was a general of the Continental Army during the American Revolution. And there's this famous painting of him crossing the Delaware on a boat with the men he was leading. And it was a cold winter night, cold winter day, cold winter week. And instead of being in an office somewhere, he's there with his men, leading them through the trenches, fighting with them, boosting their morale. Imagine it's the winter of 1777 at Valley Forge. American troops are cold, starving, and exhausted. Many are deserting. But who's out there in the freezing cold? George Washington. Can you imagine having a coach playing basketball with you? Not just yelling? Can you imagine having someone playing football with you? Not just yelling? Having someone lift up the weight with you, not just telling you how to do it? There's something there when a leader leads by example. You're saying to yourself, what does this have to do about building a life brick by brick? Everything. Everything. There are principles woven throughout this universe that if you get a hold of, or if they get a hold of you, you'll see you will build a life. In a year, you'll say to yourself, this life is completely different because the trajectory will change. Leadership is fundamental because there are different characteristics of a leader that we all must embody and have and follow and practice. Leading by example is one of them. If you're building a business, if you are coaching people, if you're just at your W-2 doing things, you have some influence. The question is, how are you using it? And can people look at you and say, okay, you're someone that takes action. You do what you preach. George Washington, led by example. The other thing is he had great discipline. You see, success isn't just about big moves. It's small, consistent habits. You might remember my quote, Consistently do the small and good things and watch the results compound. You don't need to do this big drastic change, just big drastic. I'm done with all of this at one. No, just do the small things consistently. Go to bed a little bit earlier. Wake up a little bit earlier. Get your clothes ready the day before, the night before, so you don't have to think about getting ready that morning you want to go to the gym. Get rid of candy around the house, and you'll find that instead of reaching for a candy bar, instead of reaching for chips, you'll reach for an apple or something, right? Just little things you can change, little habits. One of the little habits George Washington had was he was an early riser. He woke up before dawn. Imagine riding into war. Imagine being led by somebody and they're up before you, already making plans, already deciding what's the best route to do, already deciding this is what we're going to do and this is what we're not going to do. He had a consistent routine. And I would argue that an early morning is a keystone habit for your life right now. One of the keystone habits. What's a keystone habit? It's a habit that if you start to implement in your life, if you start to do, it will have not just ripple effects, it will send waves through your life. Another keystone habit is eating healthy. If you transition and make the change to eat organic, clean foods, they get you thinking in this health age, in this day and age, that it's about calories. It's about calories and calories, and it's not about calories. It's about ingredients. You can eat less poison and still be sick. You just won't get sick faster as the other guy who's eating more than you. But you can eat a lot of healthy food and you won't. It's ingredients. Stop counting calories, start counting ingredients. Keystone habits. You start to eat healthy, you start to feel better. That mid-afternoon slouch where you say to yourself at 3 p.m., 2 p.m., I can take a 2-hour nap right now. Suddenly you start to realize, oh, I got energy. I can do this. Those crashes after lunch because of all the soda and candy and sugar, dextrose, and this and that you've consumed, you'll suddenly realize, oh, wow, I can do this. Actually, yeah. You see, that's a keystone habit. Another one is the early morning. You get up at 5 a.m. and you start to say to yourself, okay, what am I going to do? I got 3 hours before I got to get to work, or at least start the drive to work. I got 4 hours until I have to start actually working. What am I doing? You're self-educating during that time. You're working out during that time. You're planning, you're praying, you're reading scriptures, whatever it is. You got 4 more hours to build a life brick by brick that's worth living. George Washington implemented this. He lived this. He created a disciplined routine. Another thing is he had a great integrity. You see, he was a man of great character. After the Revolutionary War, he had the chance to seize more power. I think even the soldiers suggested him and said, hey, you should become king. And he refused. Can you can you imagine winning a war and having the opportunity to declare yourself a king and saying, nah, yeah, I'll pass on that. He's the first president, and he set the precedence to stop ruling after a certain amount of terms. He could have ruled till he died. He could have been president until he died. Everyone was like, dude, you just saved our nation. You just freed us from the grip of someone all the way across this vast ocean. You can rule as long as you want. And he said, no, I'm not. Let's pass this power on. And the founding fathers, their intelligence, they're leaning on the wisdom of God to create a system, a 3-tier system that has checks and balances of power. It's amazing. The president can't just unilaterally make a decision and we all just follow. He has some power. He can do some things, but he can't just do everything he wants. We got the Congress. We got the House. They all check each other, and it's amazing the system they've created. And that's integrity. That's character. If you want to climb, you have to have the integrity, because there will be moments you're tempted. There will be moments where you can throw it all away for this and for that. And if you don't have the character for it, you will run into situations where it will be hard. It will be hard. And one bad decision, one evil decision, one foolish decision could tarnish your reputation, could cause everything you've built to tumble. It takes years to build a temple, a kingdom, a house, something great. And just one fire overnight could burn it to the ground. You need the character to be able to live in the potential limelight, to be able to live as you climb. George Washington had that character. He had that integrity. The other thing is, we find that he appeared to be a man of faith. Him and the founding fathers, there are some agnostics there and deists. Maybe deists, not agnostics. There were deists there. So there is some measure of faith there. And the reality is, you cannot rely on your own strength. You just can't. You can't lay your own foundation. You just can't. You have to build on the foundation that was given to us, Jesus Christ himself, the solid rock. You need his strength in those moments to keep going. Because the truth and reality is, we need wisdom beyond ourselves. We can't just pick ourselves up by our own bootstraps and keep going. No. You'll fail. You'll burn out. You'll lose out on resources and strength. And so my question to you is, what of these habits are you using to build a life worth living? Are you leading by example? Are you showing and not telling? Are you building a disciplined, are you living out a good routine? What's the keystone habit you've started that is bringing waves in all of your life to help you keep going? And do you have the character needed to continue to grow, continue to build, and to continue to go on this path? Entrepreneurship is hard. Real estate's hard. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're wanting to build and make, it's hard. It's difficult. Do you have the character to withstand the waves of temptation that will come your way? Washington built a legacy, built brick by brick. And what he built way back then has benefited so many years later. And I want to tell you, you could have that same effect. You could leave behind a similar legacy, but you need the character, the discipline, and the fortitude to build it brick by brick.